Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Please continue to guide us through First Timothy for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
What's up, love people, love youth, young, old, united through heaven, Christian stereotype here. We're in the 10 Necessities series. We're talking about First Timothy. We're taking some of the principles into in. We're taking some of the principles, actually all the principles in First Timothy, and we're just tying them into Thanksgiving this year. We have a thankful Thanksgiving. Um, this year's been rough for a lot of people with everything going on. And this in this letter, this point in the Bible, there's this church in Ephesus. There's a place in Rome called Ephesus, and the church there is not acting right. They're very corrupt. They're greedy. They're obsessed with money. They're spreading around a lot of lies, a lot of myths. And this guy named Paul, he writes a letter to his friend Timothy, he calls him his good son in the faith. This is just Paul writing a letter to Timothy on how to manage this church. And always keep that in mind. This is a letter for a specific church at a specific time. That's not to say that the stuff in First Timothy isn't important. It's still gospel truth. It's still God breathed. We should take it to heart. It should be preached in church. We should say like this is how it is. But in its right context, we understand it correctly and what it means for us, what it means for the church. But right now, we're going to talk about something very fun, and that's arguing. Arguing in the church, arguing in social media, arguing about Thanksgiving. Yeah, a lot of arguing goes on in churches nowadays, and it's just completely unnecessary. I would say I'm borderline. I want to say it's 100% unnecessary, but for the sake of being safe, I'll just say 95%. Don't focus on the 5% that's necessary. Focus on the 95% that's unnecessary to argue. Because we find out in this church that these guys, I'm scrolling down on my phone, the Bible app. I use the NIV UK translation on the Bible app. It's a pretty cool version. It has a really cool narrator, a good voice acting guy, but I digress. Um, but yeah, we're in First Timothy chapter 3. I'm sorry, chapter 1. I'm so sorry. We're in First Timothy chapter 1, and I'm looking at verse 4. It says, though after verse 3 and 4, as I urged you when I went into Macedonia, stay there in Ephesus, so that you may command certain people not to teach false doctrines any longer, or devote themselves to myths and endless genealogies. So from there, they were kind of just taking the Torah, that's the Old Testament, and they were taking genealogies, that's Christ's ancestry, that's like King David, um, Ruth is in there, and so is Rahab, and there's also people who you see in those genealogies. You can find out in, like, I think in Luke, that you don't really get their story. They're just kind of people that get mentioned, but people were kind of just taking this genealogy and they were just starting arguments with it, and it was going on and on and on and on and on to the point where they were just doing it to cause controversy. And so the thing is, it says such things promote controversial speculations rather than advancing God's work, which is by faith. So my main message today is this: like I said before, the argument isn't necessary. We argue over a lot of things in the church nowadays, and a lot of things over the holidays. But in the church especially, we argue over things like music, the drums, we argue. Some people who go to church like to argue, um, to about homosexuality. We like to argue with atheists. We like to argue with Muslims. People of all different beliefs. I see this stuff going on social media. Um, you know, um, posts. We love to argue about Christian artists and their personal beliefs, their public beliefs. I haven't watched any of Kanye West's stuff, but I'm sure that with his recent Joel Osteen thing, I'm sure there's plenty of arguments going on about that. I haven't seen anything. I haven't even checked out the album yet, but regardless of that, I'm sure there's plenty of arguing going on about Kanye West. Me personally, I don't. It doesn't bother me. The whole kind. I'm not. I'm just not engaged with it. I don't really engage in that stuff because, like I said here, it's just it promotes controversy, speculation rather than advancing God's work, which is the point here. We shouldn't spend our time arguing over these things. If you want to just, it's really is a lot better to just listen to someone's side and then say, I'll pray about that. It is the Bible says we should all be slow to speak, quick to listen. I think that's in Peter or Galatians or one of those verses. I'll post that verse up there. But yeah, the reason why we shouldn't do it because it promotes controversies and speculations, and even one translation it says actually no, this one in this translation says endless genealogies. It's so when the arguing goes on and on and on, it's not it's doing nothing. People especially on the cake love to debate and argue, and I used to be really into it too. Still kind of am, so just pray for me. I get over it, but people just want to argue so much, and the problem of that is everyone's trying to prove their side. No one's listening, and no one comes out any smarter. No one comes out closer to Christ. And just not just on, but everywhere on social media. People like to argue with atheists a lot. I used to argue with atheists a lot, and if you want to have a discussion, then that's fine. But if it gets to the point where you're insulting someone, you've lost the purpose. I'm sorry, you've lost the purpose. It even says here, the goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. So if you've gone to a point where you just start insulting people, you've lost the pure heart. You've lost the good conscience. People will argue over what translations to use. People will argue over just argue over anything. People will argue certain Bible verses to what they mean. I've seen people get real nasty, and I've seen people insult people, and they kind of just forget that it's all about gentleness. We should be gentle. We should always say whatever we say in gentleness, so we don't disgrace God and disgrace ourselves. Otherwise, like I said before, we just lose the point. We lose the purpose of it. The purpose of this is love, and if we're not being loving, then we're not any better than them. So yeah, people would just love to argue with just Muslims, Christians will argue with, therefore argue over stuff like abortion, yeah, I'm not saying that that stuff shouldn't be addressed, but we're not addressing it the right way. We're just not, um, from personal experience, the best way to just reach people is to just talk to them about life, ask them how they're doing. You have to have a genuine interest in people. I feel like that's been distorted, but I guess that might be a topic for another video. But that has been distorted. A genuine interest in people. I feel like when I say distorted, I mean like I really feel like people in the church don't understand that. They sometimes they think we do, sometimes we think we do, but we don't. From experience, people have kind of just been twisted in this belief that correcting someone and rebuking someone, being like, if you do this, you're gonna go to hell, means you have a genuine interest for them and genuine love. That's not exactly how that works. I feel like that's been distorted, but yeah, it says, verse 6, some have departed from these and have turned to meaningless talk. So, if it goes on and on and on to the point where it's nowhere, it's all meaningless. You've lost the point. It's meaningless. It doesn't matter what you're arguing about. You could, if you get to the point where it goes on and on to the point where it's gotta stop. and just take a break, and actually study the word and argue about it. Yeah, it just gotta stop. And he talked about the law. People would love to argue about how if the law is good or not, if we should obey the law, which there's a video coming out about that, because that's been mentioned in First Timothy. Um, It says the law is for the immoral, for those practicing homosexuality, for slave traders and liars and perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine that conforms to the gospel concerning the glory of the blessed God, which entrusted me. And what I want to take away from this, it's kind of a hard thing to say, but if you're constantly arguing with people over politics, whatever side you're on, that and this is like almost like your ministry. It's just debate and argue all the time, because there's a difference between arguing and apologetics. There's a difference. um there's a stark difference, so I want to make that clear. But I feel like that's been distorted too. But I just want to say this, like I said, the goal of this community to love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience. Some have departed from these and have turned to meaningless talk. So, the people back in Ephesus just turned away from a good heart and a pure conscience. They were cheating people. Um, they were obsessed with money. Some were cheating on their wives and things like that. Some wives would probably cheat on their husbands. And then he gets into the law and says, the law is for sexual morality and perjurers and slave traders and homosexuals. And my thing is this: if you're constantly arguing with people who are different religion, different beliefs, and it gets to a point where you're just in this circle, and and you're used to just berating people. You're used to calling people dumb, or even you think that they're stupid, or because they don't see your side. Which I've been in danger of that a lot. Even recently, I kind of posted a comment about people who were in an argument, and I said, the thing with the problem with this is people end up leaving the conversation thinking that, oh, they didn't see my side because they don't get the Bible. I'm like, huh, I'm talking about them, I'm talking about me right now. So we all have to be careful. But um if this is your thing, you're not really any better than the people listed there. If this is if you're constantly arguing with people, constantly berating people for their beliefs, and just getting mad and looking down on them, this isn't, and doing this to the point where nothing's getting done, especially in the church, especially if we're in the body of believers here, because if we're debating with each other over these things, music, politics, uh, yeah, just all this stuff. We're debating with each other and nothing's getting done. We're not any different than the people outside in the world. And that was the problem that this church was getting to. They were just doing all this stuff, at least the debating part, as they were arguing to the point where nothing was getting done. So it's like, you're not any different from the people up there, because you're we're not advancing God's work, which is healing people, loving on people, spreading the gospel to the lost, to those who want to hear it, to the desperate, to those who are hungry for something more than this world. Um, so yeah, just keep that in mind. I have the same problem. We can all grow together. In terms of Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving's coming. Thanksgiving's around the corner. Um, Try not to argue too much about everything that's going on. Um, Maybe you have got families from different denominations. Just don't argue about it, man. You come together as a family and come together as a family and advance each other. This is what should be done. Share the food. Be thankful to spend this year being thankful that you get to see your family, because a lot of people don't get to see their family on Thanksgiving. So just keep your arguments to a minimum, if none at all. Just enjoy each other's company enjoy some turkey, mac and cheese. Speaking of food, people like to argue over the diet. People will argue over anything, man. So yeah, let's just stop all this needless arguing because it's meaningless. It promotes controversy, and the main thing is this: wherever the topic is, whether it's genealogies, music, politics, if it's, I feel like if it's endless, if it does nothing, just goes on and on and on, despite whatever your cause is, if it's endless, it's end up being meaningless because you've just wasted hours. You've wasted hours. You wasted energy on something that's really not worth it. So especially if you're a Christian, if you're posting your political side, arguing with someone about it, think about how much time you could have used that, how much of time that you could have used either just reading the Bible, praying for someone, just listening to Christian music, watching a Christian movie, how much energy could you have put into something more positive? Okay, I'm not saying don't defend your side because we should stand up for justice as Christians, but always be sure to know where it's coming from, especially emotionally. Try not to do it out of anger. Anger will have anger, but in your anger, don't sin. Whatever you type, make sure you pray before you post it, and even delete it and just say, how can I say this more smoothly? Why? Because we should say it gently, because we're trying because we should, because we're trying to represent Christ, because we should say it more gently, because that's what Christ was. Christ was gentle. We know that because Peter said we should be gentle, and we're trying to be like Christ, so we know Christ was a gentle person. Yeah, so keep that in mind. A lot of stuff. So I just hope that you have a safe Thanksgiving, an argument-free Thanksgiving, an argument-free church. Yeah, let's rise above the Ephesus problem. Let's start the arguments. Stop the arguments, and let's always stand up for justice, of course. And no church is perfect. There's gonna be arguments. There's gonna be family arguments. No family's perfect. No church family is perfect. But with that being said, let's not get into the habit of this is all we do and nothing's progressing. And I think that wraps it up. I did not plan for this video to be 17 minutes. Always use captions because I talk like I got marshmallows stuck in my mouth. So please like, comments over ways we can get rid of the arguments and just enjoy Thanksgiving and enjoy church and enjoy each other. But whatever you argue about, whatever your political ties are, whatever you're tired of seeing in the church, remember this.
You are loved, your heart's in 1,000 pieces. If you're lost and you're far from reason, just look up, know you are loved.